Neil, final away game. How do you reflect on that performance?
I thought generally we were okay. I think we've got to believe in ourselves a little bit more. I think Chester obviously all know each other quite well. Very economical in the way that they played. Scored again from a set piece, which we spoke about. We know how dangerous Harrison is from set pieces. I just think at times our lads, got to get that little bit more about them to stop things from happening and be more positive in games, because they've got the ability. But just at times I think they doubt themselves a little bit more. I think they could really have a go.
Can you expect that to happen in your first season in this division?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you go through the team, I wouldn't know off the top of my head at the moment, but I don't know how many of our lads have actually played at this level. I don't think many have. We've had a great season. People look back at January, February, but I said all along, I know I spoke to you most weeks, Steve, that we weren't far away. We just needed that little bit of a cutting edge at the top of the pitch. But generally, I can't thank the players, and I can't praise the players enough. I just wish, as I say, there's more in the locker from them, and hopefully that confidence element will come as they get a little bit older.
It was probably a slow first half, but you definitely came into your own second half, and one goal quickly nearly became two in that last 10 minutes. Did it almost feel like Chris Doyle's shot went in slow motion as it sort of drifted wide?
Yeah, I think it went back behind him. Yeah, we had that one, then we had the one we hit the bar, great header from Scarisbrick, just after they'd scored, but I think they just did enough. I don't, in terms of the game, what I mean by that is that they managed the game quite well up until we scored. We've made a dreadful error for the goal. We struggled a little bit over the top. Balls back to the keeper throughout the game. But once we scored, we were in the ascendancy, and we were hoping that one was dropping. I just said to them, don't think football's got to be played a certain way. Sometimes stick it in there, get round the ball, particularly at these levels, and you'll get what you deserve, and we nearly did.
Obviously, this squad, it remains uncertain what's going to happen for the most of them. What can you tell us, or what are you seeing from the past 90 minutes and maybe one more to come now?
From a team perspective, I don't know what lads are getting tapped up all the time and spoken to and various things. I don't get too hung up on that. I think from a Marine perspective, we give them a very good environment. Obviously, with me stepping away from the manager's job, some of them might be a little bit, undecided because they don't know what's coming next as yet. But what they will see, I would like to think, is a better Marine as a football club over a period of time, and give them a better environment to thrive. Hopefully, with better, not better players, but improved players. Bit more consistency around the recruitment. Hopefully that'll bring. But generally, it's like any footballer, isn't it? You hope you can keep hold of your players, but I'm sure other clubs will be speaking to them and have been speaking to them as we go.
And you've got one game left now. It's obviously a slightly different feeling because you're not going too far, you're only going upstairs. But is there some emotion there that you're feeling? Do you feel like you made the right decision?
I've made the right decision for this time now in my life, where I'm at and where we are as a football club. I think I think we've got some clarity around it. Is that I think in our current form, me personally, took the football club as far as I can. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. That doesn't mean the football club's gone as far as it can, but it's my belief, and obviously now the club's belief, that if we don't make this change in terms of the structure of how it's done, then it's going to be very difficult for Marine to sustain this level of football on a regular basis. The manager can't just be expected to perform miracles week in, week out. That can't happen. And from my personal perspective, what I didn't want to do, I've been doing it 6.5 years. I've built a new team virtually every year. That's not always been through choice, believe me. It certainly hasn't in the last few years. We've moved very quickly as a football club, and it's now at the stage where if I was doing the job, and I wouldn't have the energy to build a full team and pre-season and go again. I've not been away, through football for nearly 3 years because I've had to do that process because we've obviously got promoted and then we arrived in the National League North. So from my perspective, I've taken the club in its current form as far as I can. My job now is to try and support the football club and the new manager to put a structure in so this football club can stay at this level and build, like Chester have done. I know they've got more resource, finances, like Chorley have done, like Cairns Nashton have done, just to name a few. Yeah, they look, the resource. Me, Steve, I don't talk about finance. My budget this year has not been spent, and that's not for any other reason. Is we cannot attract the players to the football club that we want, and I'm not just going to go out there and sign anybody. Giving someone next £100 doesn't make them a better footballer. So we need to get that right. But that's what we're doing. We'll be working away from the football club to put a structure in that makes Marine capable of staying at this level, and then who knows what comes next? Will that be hybrid? Will that be part-time football? Will that be full-time football? We'll be looking at all those options because we've got the facilities. It's the finance on that side you've got to look at. And personally, for me, I know I'm changing roles at Marine, but I'm not saying at any stage, and I haven't. This is not my, well, I'm not saying it's not, but I'm not saying I'm retiring from football management. That's not what I'm saying at all. At this moment in time, Marine Football Club will be best served by Neil Young away from the first team manager's job to try and put a structure in place and a recruitment team in place that gives us best chance of competing. Because at this moment in time, far too many signings and are done with as much information as you can find. We need to be more thorough at that because we can't get too many wrong. We don't have the money to get too many wrong, and I think in the last 2 seasons in particular, we need to be a bit more correct, in what we do. Not just in terms of the players. We've had some fantastic players. There's players who are probably above, but you have to recruit to a certain type. It's not that the players aren't good enough or we play a different way. We have to play a different way because we don't have the money to roll it out between the 2 centre halves and play through midfield, which a lot of these young lads now particularly are used to, and that's what they do day in, day out. And sometimes it's unfair on them. But from my perspective, Saturday's going to be tough, should we say. But for me, and I've said this all along, I needed to make sure when I left this football club, in terms of I had to go out the front door. And after what we've achieved together as a club and as a management team, and supporters and players over all these years, then it was important that I made the right decision, and I think it is.
It wouldn't be right not to talk about the reception you got before the game. It was a nice reception for you, and I think even after full time that was a nice touch and probably an even better one than the first.
I've had great times here, Stephen. Unbelievable times. I said before that some of my best memories in life. I've been at this football club. Those of you who were involved, they know who they are. When we were here and we were doing what we were doing, and those records in this league still stand today. Then, I've got some unbelievable memories that, people can't take away. And, to get that reset, I didn't get an opportunity really when I left the club to say thank you to all the supporters here. And I know people move on quite quick in life now, with social media, etc. But I've always said about this football club, they've always been fair with me. And I know it's easier when you're winning games, but even when we weren't winning games in the final season, they were always fair with me. But what a time I had here, and what the people I met, and the supporters I met, and the people I've met again today, so thankful for what we achieved. And I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to manage here.
And finally, they're in the playoffs now. Obviously, they've got the home advantage. How far do you think this Chester team can go?
Well, I'm hoping they're going to get promoted. And I've got a weird analysis. My analysis is that I think last time, I might be wrong in this, but I came and watched them last time, and I think they went straight into the semi-final. I think they played Brackley here. They did play Brackley, lost 1-0. I'm a big believer, and I say it in the FA Cup. I think if you start earlier in the competition, which I think they do this time, do they? Did they come in around it? And they can win that first game, that momentum. Because I always find, like, when we've had our FA Cup runs at Marine, we've come from a lower base, so we build a momentum, and then you get to this position where you think you can beat anybody, and it's crazy mentality. And I just do think at this stage, if they can get in through the first game, whoever that may be, then I think they could, and they get that belief, I think they could honestly go on and do it.
Tony,
Okay, mate.
thank you very